Hi guys, welcome to this channel. I believe finance, science and psychology are the keys to better life. One step at a time, let's create a snowballing effect in our lives. In the previous video, we talked about the divided self and came to realize that there are two systems running inside us, and our control system is rather thin as the advisor, not the commander. If you have not watched the previous video, you could check out the link above. In this video, we will apply those concepts to real-world scenarios and see how could we use it to our benefits. Table of content. Word in elephant's eyes. We will talk about how elephant interprets this word and how could we shape our minds. Reciprocity and vengeance, which are the foundation to our society. Adversity, why it may be beneficial and how it could benefit us. Like all meter, our mind is like an elephant, and our conscious self is like a rider who struggles to control the elephant. The most important words in elephant language are like and dislike, or approach and withdraw. The marrying system is called like all meter. It is the way elephant interprets this word. In 1980s, a method of experiment is invented, which allows the scientist to escape the rider and communicate with the elephant directly. It is called affective priming. You sit in front of a computer screen and stare at a dot in the center. Every few seconds, a word is flashed over the dot. All you have to do is tap a key with your left hand if the word means something good or likable. So these words are presented subliminally, as it's too fast. Below the level of your awareness, your intuitive system is so fast that it reads and reacts to them with a like-o-meter rating. For example, whenever you say or hear a word that resembles your name, a little flash of pleasure biases you towards thinking the thing is good, not the scary part coming. If Dennis is considering a career, he ponders the possibilities. Lawyer, doctor, banker, dentist. Dentist sounds about right. Leave in the comments below if you have found some similar patterns in life. Therefore, it is key to understand our intuitive system is always registering the environment around us, which makes me think that is how karma works. Our body is a collection of memory. It remembers good or bad even you don't realize, and influences you on what you do in your life, where to live and whom to marry in invisible ways. Negativity bias. Clinical psychologists sometimes say that two kinds of people seek therapy, those who need tightening and those who need loosening. For most people, the elephant sees too many things as bad and not enough as good. It makes biological sense. If you were designing the mind of a fish, would you have it respond as strongly to opportunities as to threats? If it misses a meal, it may starve for a while, unless this is so critical which decides whether it could survive. The cost of missing the sign of a nearby predator, however, can be catastrophic. Our responses to threats and unpleasantness are faster, stronger, and harder to inhibit than responses to opportunities and pleasures. This is called negativity bias. Opposing systems push against each other to reach a balance point, but the balance point is adjustable. The sympathetic system prepares your body for fight or flight, and the parasympathetic system calms you down. The withdrawal system can quickly shoot up to full power, overtaking the slower and generally weaker approach system. The Cortical Lottery. When it comes to explaining personality, it is always true that the nature and nurture work together, but it's also true that nature plays a bigger role than most people realize. Now prepare yourself for a surprising story. Consider the identical twin sisters Daphne and Barbara. Raised outside London, they both left school at the age of 14, went to work in local government, met their future husband at the age of 16 at local town hall dances, suffered miscarriages at the same time, and then each gave birth to 2 boys and a girl. They feared many of the same things, blood and heights, and the list continues. None of this may surprise you until you learn that separate families have adopted Daphne and Barbara as infants. Neither even know of the other's existence until they were united at the age of 40. When they finally did meet, they were wearing almost identical clothing. Twin studies generally show that from 50% to 80% of all variance of people's average levels of happiness can be explained by difference in their genes rather than in their life experiences. People showing more of a certain kind of brainwave coming through the left side of the forehead reported feeling more happiness in their daily lives and less fear, anxiety, and shame than people exhibiting higher activities on the right side. Mental intrusion. Do you struggle to forget the things that you want to? In one study, participants are asked to try hard not to think about something. This is hard to do. More important, the moment one stops trying to suppress a thought, the thought comes flooding in, and it becomes even harder to banish. You create minor obsession by instructing yourself not to obsess. When the goal comes to action, it works well by tracking it in steps, but when the goal is mental, it backfires. Automatic process continually check, am I not thinking about it? Difficulty of winning an argument. Everybody should have the experience of trying to persuade somebody, but did you succeed? When you see a painting, you usually know instantly and automatically whether you like it. If someone asks you to explain your judgment, you need to think. You don't really know why you think something is beautiful, but you interpret a model, the reader is skilled at making up reasons. When you refute a person's argument, does she generally change her mind and agree with you? Of course not, because the argument you defeated was not the cause of her position. It was made up after the judgment was already made. It is the elephant who judges, and it happens constantly, automatically. But only the reader can string sentences together. We pay too much attention to conscious verbal thinking, and we are surprised when urges, wishes, and temptations emerge seemingly from nowhere. How to change your mind? So how to guide your mind? As we know that we can't defeat the automatic machine by sheer force of will, events in the world affect us only through our interpretations of them. So if we can control our interpretations, we can control our mind. One way is meditation. The goal of meditation is to change automatic thought process, thereby taming the elephant. And the proof of taming is the breaking of attachment. Although you give up the pleasure of winning, you also give up the large pains of losing. Meditation done every day for several months can help you reduce substantially the frequency of fearful, negative, and grasping thoughts. The other way is cognitive therapy. People often use reasoning not to find the truth but to invent arguments to support our deep and intuitive beliefs. For depressed people, it creates a feedback loop where the distorted thoughts are further distorted. A big part of cognitive therapy is training clients to catch their thoughts, write them down, name the distortion, and then find alternative and find more accurate ways of thinking. Meditation works on the elephant and cognitive therapy works on reader. If the above makes you think as well, please press the like button and remember to subscribe. More is coming on your way. Reciprocity with vengeance. What holds our society together and ensures it functions with order? Reciprocity is a deep instinct. It is the basic currency of social life. A species equipped with vengeance can support large and more cooperative social groups, because the payoff to cheaters is reduced by the cost they bear in making enemies. Conversely, the benefits of generosity are increased because one gains friends. It would be hard to evolve one without the other. For example, in bargaining, people who stake out an extreme position, then move to a middle ground, do better than a reasonable first position, as the other participants is more likely to honor the arguments as she feels that she had influenced the outcome. The faults of others. The reader acts like a lawyer who represents the elephant in the court. They fight for a client's interests, not for the truth. We take a position, look for evidence that supports it, and if we find some evidence, enough so that our position makes sense, we stop thinking. In a low-pressure environment, people can be induced to change mind with reasons and evidence. They just don't try thinking themselves. However, in a high-pressure environment, like a person being caught cheating on taxes, there will be a much worse reasoner. The orders are given by elephant, and to win the game of life, you must present your best possible self to others. But everyone else is playing the same game, so you must also play defense. We are fairly accurate in our perception of others, but wrong in self-perception. Judgmentalism. The world we live is a world of insults, opportunities, status symbols, betrayals, saints, and sinners. You have a role to play in the functioning of the universe, and you must play that role. But you should do it in the right way, without being attached to the fruits or outcomes of your action. Judgmentalism is indeed a disease of the mind. It leads to anger, torment, and conflict, but it is also the mind's normal condition. The elephant is always evaluating, always saying like it or don't like it. To make the world conform to your wishes is always a striving after wind. The use of adversity. Stressors are generally bad for people, contributing to depression, anxiety disorders, and heart disease. However, it could also be beneficial, and it is not just adversity within limits. Post-traumatic growth. Researchers have studied how people cope with losses of their strongest attachments, children, spouses, or partners, and parents. Although traumas, crises, and tragedies come in 1,000 forms, people benefit from them in 3 primary ways. The first benefit is that rising to challenge reveals your hidden abilities, and seeing these abilities changes your self-concept. Suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. The second class of benefit concerns relationship. Adversity is the filter. It separates the fair weather friends from the true. Meanwhile, it strengthens relationship, and it opens people's hearts to one another. People who went through a loss had a greater appreciation of and tolerance for the other people in his or her life. For everything there is a reason. When people older than 30 are asked to remember the most important or vivid events of their lives, they are disproportionately likely to recall events that occurred between the ages of 15 and 25. This is the time when most of the important choices about life are made. If the adversity, especially if overcome fully, is probably most beneficial in the late teens and early 20s. Knowledge and wisdom. We do not receive wisdom. We must discover it for ourselves. Explicit knowledge is all the facts that you know, like how many countries on the earth. Tacit knowledge is procedural. It's knowing how rather than knowing that. Tacit knowledge resides in the elephant. It is the skills that the elephant acquires gradually from life experience. Optimists are more likely to benefit than pessimists. Life has a way of making the rich get richer and the happy get happier. In the last video, we will explore how to maximize our happiness.